Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today I have my Believathon TBR. So first off, I just want to apologise if there's traffic noise. I'm filming a lot earlier than I normally would. The window's right there and it is rush hour. So the Believathon is short for the Believe in the Impossible readathon, which is a 1 month long readathon that's going on throughout the entirety of November that is hosted by my good friend Gavin from the channel Gavin Hetherington. Now this readathon centres entirely around reading children's and middle grade books, which is not something that I usually read, although I do have a few and there are a few that I want to read. So I am very excited to take part in this readathon and also to support Gavin. Gavin has made a printable compendium that has recommendations and all of the prompts, etc., as well as the reasons why he is hosting this readathon. And I will of course link his announcement video down below where there will be a link to that compendium, and then obviously you can also watch his announcement video. Now there are kind of two ways of doing this readathon. There are 10 prompts for the readathon and then there is also a group book. So one of the ways of doing the readathon is to pick a book for every prompt, read all of those and the group book. But if you can't manage that, which I may not be able to, I do have a book picked out for every prompt. But for people who aren't able to do that, the kind of minimum requirement of the readathon is just that you read one children's book per week. Now, as well as all of this going on, there are also themed days happening during the readathon. There's a Disney day, a classics day, a like festive day kind of thing. Gavin has put like a full schedule of that stuff on Twitter, so I will of course also link the Twitter down below. Now for my TBR, I have picked a book for every prompt apart from one, and the one that I haven't picked a prompt for is to read a book that deals with real world issues, and that is because I don't own any children's contemporary stories and there's none that I know of that I want to read. However, a lot of children's fantasy does also deal with real world issues. It's just that with them being marketed as a fantasy story, they don't advertise the real world issues and you only kind of find out about those when you're actually reading the book. So one of the books that I have on this TBR will probably double up for that prompt, but I don't have a specific book picked out for that. There is also one prompt that I am doubling up on, and that is because if you have seen my Bookopoly TBR, you know that I should not be making this video anyway because my TBR is already through the roof. But Bookopoly has made me read a book that I did not necessarily intend to put on my Believathon TBR, but I still want to read the book that I had picked out for that prompt. So I'll kind of double up on the prompt for that one. I think that's everything for the introduction of this video, so we will now get into the books that I want to read for the Believathon. So the first prompt is to read a book that features magic, and this will be the prompt that I'm doubling up on. The first book I have picked out for that is the one that came up in Bookopoly, and that is Castle in the Air by Diana Wynne Jones. I don't know too much about this and I don't know a lot about most of the books in this TBR, so at least it should be a pretty quick video, I guess. But Castle in the Air is the sequel to Howl's Moving Castle, which is a book that I read for Ghibliathon and enjoyed. I don't really know too much about the plot of Castle in the Air because it does not follow Howl and Sophie as Howl's Moving Castle does, and I think it's set in a completely different part of the world. So I can't really tell you much about the plot of that, but the plot of Howl's Moving Castle is that we follow a young girl called Sophie who is cursed by the Witch of the Waste because of a misunderstanding, and she feels like she has nothing left to lose, so she just wanders off into the hills to find her fortune. Instead, she comes across Howl and his moving castle and gets wrapped up in all of the madness that is associated with Howl, which is a lot, to be honest. The other book that I've selected for this prompt is Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is a very firm favourite on BookTube regarding children's books. I know a little bit about the plot of this one. It's one of the only ones that I do really know the plot of, but this follows a young girl called Morrigan Crow who everybody thinks is a cursed child. In the town that she lives, she is blamed for absolutely every bad thing that happens to anybody. Essentially, the townspeople just want rid of her. Now, Morrigan is set to die on her maybe 10th or 11th birthday. I'm not sure why, I think it's just like a cursed child kind of thing. But on the day that she is set to die, a man called Jupiter North comes and whisks her away to Nevermore. This has been compared to Harry Potter a lot, although people have said it does have its own story. It's just the feel reminds them of how they felt when they read Harry Potter. And I do know that there is some sort of magical tournament in here, which is one of my favourite tropes. So I'm very excited to get to this one. A lot of you guys have been telling me to read this one, and I've had this one out from the library for some time now. The second prompt is to read a book that features mythology or folklore, and for that I will be reading Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. This is another firm BookTube favourite. Honestly, never read this when I was a kid, so I don't know anything about it at all. But I do know that it follows Percy Jackson, who is a half god. He's the son of Poseidon, I think. I'm assuming his mother is human, and something happens to him. That's all I know about this, but I know a lot of you guys really love Rick Riordan's works, so I'm hoping I enjoy it. The next challenge is to read a book set in the past, and for that I will be reading Mary Poppins by P.L. Travers. Now, I absolutely love the movie Mary Poppins and I kind of grew up on it. I also really enjoy Saving Mr. Banks. I do know that a lot of liberties were taken with the plot of this, and there are a lot of aspects of the movie that are not in the book. However, this is a book series that I have wanted to read since I watched Saving Mr. Banks, which is the thing that brought it to my attention that these were even books to begin with. It is quite a short one, and it's one of the ones that I'm most excited to get to this week. I can't really give you a plot of this because I am more familiar with the plot of the movie, but this story does follow two children who are quite unruly and who have forced many nannies to quit. When in swoops Mary Poppins, who uses her umbrella to fly and has a magic bag that is essentially bottomless, and she kind of transforms their lives. The next challenge is to read a book that features a strong friendship group, and for that I will be reading The Land of Raw by Jenny McLaughlin. Now, I don't know too much about the friendship group in this, but I did ask Gav if any of the children's books that I had would fulfill this prompt, apart from Harry Potter, because I'm up to Order of the Phoenix and that's kind of chunky, so I don't really want to read it right now. And Gavin said that this would fit the prompt. I know a little bit about this. It is illustrated. It has some really beautiful illustrations in here. I think that this one is a portal fantasy, and it follows a group of children who I think they used to crawl under the bed and imagine that they've been transported to a land called Raw, and when they're a little bit older they do revisit their imaginings and crawl under the bed and find out that Raw may not have been as imagined as they believed it was. The next challenge is to read a spooky book, and for that I have Malamander by Thomas Taylor. This one was sent to me by Gav. Actually, this one was also sent to me by Gav, so thank you very much, Gavin, for these. This is one of the books that is actually featured in Gavin's compendium for the spooky prompt. I don't know why it's spooky, aside from the fact that it takes place in a seaside town that is called Erie-on-Sea. It should be called Cheery-on-Sea, but I think the letters, the C and the H at the beginning, have fallen off. So that is the only thing that I know about it that would make it spooky. But like I said, Gavin did recommend this in his compendium, so I'll take his word for it. And once again, I don't know too much about this, but I think it takes place in a hotel called the Grand Nautilus Hotel, and there is a legendary creature, I want to say, called the Malamander. I don't know what the Malamander is, but it sounds reptilian, but I guess I will have to wait and see. The next challenge is to read a seasonal book, and for that I will be reading Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. Now, I have seen the movie for this, and I have also played the game that was made from the movie. I think I played that on the Wii. It was one of the first games that I got on the Nintendo Wii, but I can't remember anything about the plot of this. I remember Nicole Kidman, and I don't know if revealing something about her character is spoilers for this, so I won't, but I remember Nicole Kidman and some of the things that happen with her. And I know that this follows a girl called Lyra who has a daemon that's like a little weasel or otter type thing, I think. And I know that it is set in a snowy setting, and I think, is there a train in this? There may be a train. This is the first book in Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials series. I know that he is currently publishing prequel stories that add on to this series, and I do know that a lot of you guys love this series, and I've had this book for a while. I really like this edition of it, which is why I picked it up, because I found it in a charity shop, so I am excited to get into this one. Now for another one of the books that I'm most excited to read this month. This one is for the prompt to read a book that features an animal character, and for that I will be reading Oz the Complete Collection Volume 1 or The Wizard of Oz. So this is the first volume in the entire series. I think there's like 15 books in this series, but I did buy an edition that had 3 of the books in, just because if I do want to read the complete series, then I wanted to have a matching set. However, I don't know whether I will be reading this entire book or if I will just be reading the first book in the series, which is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Also included in this compendium we have The Marvelous Land of Oz and Ozma of Oz. Like I said, don't know if I'm going to get to those ones, but I will try and read The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. If you don't know what this is about, it is another movie that was based on a series of books, a movie that I grew up with, and it follows a girl called Dorothy from Kansas whose house is swept up in a hurricane and deposited in the Land of Oz, where she accidentally kills the Wicked Witch of the East and is then hunted by the Wicked Witch of the West because she's wearing the Wicked Witch of the East's ruby slippers, which have powerful properties. And then the last prompt is to read a children's classic. Obviously Mary Poppins and the Wizard of Oz will fit for this, but the book that I've selected is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. I'm not going to give you a synopsis of this because we all know it's about Alice who falls down a rabbit hole and ends up in Wonderland. I have had this for a very long time. This was my souvenir book that I picked up in New York. Every time I go somewhere I buy a book, and I haven't got around to reading it yet, so I am very excited to read this. It's a very pretty edition, and I think think it's mainly told in like a verse style. Well, not verse, but it has an interesting writing style, but I don't think this one's going to take me too long to read. And then the last book on my TBR is the group book for Believethon, which is Frostheart by Jamie Littler. Gav also sent me this one, so once again, thank you so much, Gavin. This is another one that made it onto my Bookopoly TBR, so this one will definitely get read. And once again, I don't know too much about the plot of this. I do know that it contains a mystery because that's the prompt I used it for in Bookopoly, and I think it follows a boy whose parents go missing. He gains magical powers. This one is once again set in a cold, snowy setting, so very apt for the weather, which is starting to turn quite cold now. This is also Gavin's favourite middle grade of all time now, so I'm very excited to see what this is about, because as you may be able to tell from him hosting a completely children's themed readathon, he reads a lot of children's books, so the fact that this is now his favourite is like a super high endorsement, so I'm really eager to read this one and find out what's so great about it. Okay, so that is it for my Believethon TBR. I'm sorry that I don't know a lot about a lot of these books, but children's books are not something I read a lot of, and I also don't know too many other booktubers who read a lot of children's books, and I kind of learn synopses of books from listening to other people say them, so a lot of these I don't know a whole ton about. As I said at the beginning of this video, Gavin is hosting a whole ton of theme days. I am participating in most of them. When you see this video, the Midnight Feast will have already happened. I'm doing that one, and I'm also going to be doing the Disney Day, the Classics Day, and the Seasonal Day, I think, and I'm sure there's another one. Oh, there's a 24-hour readathon as well. I think I'm going to try and do that one as well. So if you would like to see what I'm reading for any of those at those times, then you can of course follow my reading vlogs. I have a reading vlog every single week if you want to see what I'm up to and what I'm reading. But I think that's about it for my Believethon TBR. Please let me know in the comments if you are participating and if you have read any of these books. I think all of them are extremely popular, so most of you guys who read a lot of children's books will have read most of these, but let me know if there are any particular gems in my TBR. Please also don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to. If you head to my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish body butter and candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.